Hello Mr. Watson and period G. My name is Brady Parmentier and today I am going to be giving you guys a presentation on icebergs. I am also going to be going over several subtopics with you guys, such as global warming, why icebergs float, the anatomy and structure of the iceberg, and whether or not they are dangerous. So without further ado, let's begin the first slide and start off with what is actually considered an iceberg. It might come as a surprise, but icebergs do not originate in the water. They actually form on land on places such as glaciers, ice shelves, and other icebergs. What makes the piece of ice an iceberg is when it breaks off of the ice structure and is floating in the ocean. There's also a common misconception that icebergs are massive, however they all do vary in sizes and shapes. Some icebergs can only be about 16 feet apart, when others can surprisingly be about the size of small countries. If you want to find an iceberg and see it with your own eyes, they usually only form in the North Atlantic Ocean and the cold waters near Antarctica. Many people are curious as to why icebergs are so large, however they do not consider the fact that they are coming from even larger pieces of ice. Icebergs originate from much larger structures of ice, such as glaciers, ice shelves, and even larger icebergs that are breaking apart. Many people also wonder how icebergs just appear out in the middle of the open ocean. This is because the icebergs follow the ocean's currents. Since the ocean's currents move towards warmer waters, the icebergs follow the currents to much warmer environments. This causes the ice and snow of the iceberg to melt into what is referred to as melt ponds. These melt ponds leak all throughout the iceberg and they cause the cracks of the iceberg to widen, decreasing the size of the iceberg and causing it to melt. Every single type of iceberg floats. It does not matter what the size or shape of the iceberg is, there are no exceptions. The reason behind this is because once the water freezes and the temperature of the water decreases, the icebergs grow much larger in size and expand. These conditions allow for the iceberg to become less dense than the water that the iceberg is actually sitting in, allowing it to float. However, even though the iceberg is technically floating, only about 10% of the iceberg is actually revealed from above the ocean's surface. The percentage of the iceberg which is actually revealed above the ocean's surface is determined by the age of the iceberg. Global warming and the melting of ice structures had begun in the early 1900s. Some structures which scientists had noticed were melting were glaciers, ice caps, and icebergs. Scientists believe that the main reason behind all of the ice melting is the carelessness and irresponsibility of humans and their activities. The start of the Industrial Revolution also seemed to have a large effect on the increase in temperature and the melting of ice. Some harmful chemicals that were released during the Industrial Revolution were carbon dioxide and other harmful gas emissions which contributed to all of the harm. Scientists also believe that the melting of the ice from the glaciers, ice caps, and icebergs are a large contributor to the rise in sea level. Global warming is also slowing down the ocean's currents. This is because the ice that is melting is much colder than normal. So the big question is, are icebergs dangerous? Now many people probably know the answer to this question, especially after seeing the movie Titanic. But yes, icebergs indeed are dangerous because only 10% of the iceberg is actually visible to the human eye, while about 90% of the iceberg is hidden underneath the water. However, many people would think that the larger icebergs would be the more dangerous ones, but usually the smaller icebergs are the ones that cause problems since the smaller bits of ice are much harder to see when navigating a ship, making it much easier for a vessel to accidentally hit. Icebergs do not only bring danger to ships. If an iceberg falls over, the great impact of the iceberg hitting the water is so strong that it can start a tsunami or even an earthquake to occur. Thank you very much for watching my presentation on icebergs. Here on the screen are all of the sites which I used to help me with this presentation. I also wanted to say that you are doing a great job keeping up with all of the Zooms and online schooling, And it might be a little late, but happy Teacher Appreciation Day.